My name is Tammy Nguyen, and we are at my studio in Easton, Connecticut. So for the Berlin Bienniale, I have created 14 paintings that depict the 14 stations of the cross. A few years ago, I traveled to Indonesia for a separate research trip, but during that trip, I visited the Riau Islands because my parents were Vietnamese refugees there. So when we were on Pulau Galang, you would come up to the sort of the tourist opening and everything, and what you were met with was the first sort of religious center. And I was really struck by this forest that was filled with these giant golden statues depicting the stations of the cross. All of the renderings and the statues were planted in these refugee boats. And I just thought it was just so bizarre that there was so much effort put into maintaining this story and contextualizing it in this refugee scenario. And then of course there's a lot of contradictions that are embedded in this scenery, which is that Catholicism was brought over through not just evangelical projects, but also projects of domination. And so in thinking about this place, Pulau Galang, and then thinking about sort of the ways in which Catholicism penetrated Vietnamese society, I started to think about how these contradictions, like what does it mean when the salvation is true? Because I think that in this landscape, prayer is vividly true. There's no sort of like intellectual analysis there. It's true and it's real and it's offering hope. If you look at the way that particular Jesus is rendered, you'll notice that Jesus is actually wearing a mask in those paintings. Perhaps this is not Jesus, but an enactment of the procession, which is extremely common in many devout communities all around the world. And I think that becomes really important in this situation because there's a constant retelling of this story as a way to keep the spirit alive, In thinking about that, something that was important to me in these paintings was that, while, yes, I am kind of literally rendering the Stations of the Cross, the environment that I'm rendering is imbued with an agency of its own. It exists in parallel, but not as a collaboration with the humans that are occupying this narrative. The reason why I like probing at these questions of reading and language is because I'm interested in confusion. I think that confusion is a really kind of humbling space to be in, and a really, if I'm being completely honest, like a space that is so, I don't know, for me, it stems from being kind of a diasporic product. You were from multiple places, but they all hold together. You can see the contradictions, and the contradictions are constantly vibrating against each other, but cease to ever become one, right? And so I think that is something that I'm always kind of searching to distill in all of my projects, whether it be a little zine that I send out in the mail or a large, sort of body of paintings such as this.